So there.
So there.
So there.
So there.
Let me know your thoughts.
So there.
So there.
So there.
Let me know your thoughts.
Why do you keep saying let us know your thoughts?
Let me know your thoughts to me is a nice lead-in for So there. So there.
Welcome to episode 74 of
So there.
I'm Gary Doyle.
And I'm Tom Karamitis.
How you doing, Tom?
Good. I'm good. Excited, fresh back from our sojourn up to Michigan.
Yeah.
Had a delightful weekend with Mr. Jim Gartner, director extraordinaire, friend of ours.
For anybody that missed our last podcast, we interviewed directing legend James Gartner, commercial directing legend, Hollywood director, much decorated. And had a great chat. And actually, Tom, our downloads in that episode spiked. I want to say 50%. Is that right?
Yeah, 50%. That's a big hit.
Yeah. I mean, that's from 3 to 6, or 3 to 4.5.
You're not supposed to say that part.
Don't get too excited. But I think it teaches us that we've talked about trying to bring celebrities on. We've approached rappers. We've approached Geraldo Rivera. We've approached. Am I missing anybody else? They've all turned us down.
Yeah, I suggested that you approach Dean Cain, who is an actor we've worked with on commercial projects in the past, and you actually worked with him again recently, but you chickened out, I think.
Yeah, Dean Cain. There's a lot of people we've worked with we could approach. Seth Green, Hilary Swank, Daniel Stern, all these has-beens we're bringing up. Yeah. But anyway, big spike in our listenership. Hopefully that continues through to this episode, Tom. Do you think it will?
I think for a few minutes, and then as usual, when they hear it's just us. I need to mow the lawn is what we'll be hearing across the countryside.
Yeah, no guests today. I'll just, lay that out for our listeners up front. Tom has a cornucopia of topics. Gary Doyle has nothing. Gary Doyle has nothing to talk about. We usually come pre-arranged with a couple of topics each. Tom Karamitis has at least a couple, maybe a couple dozen. I have none. We did get an intriguing email to So There.
Well, let's hear it.
You want to hear it now?
Well, if it's about, I assume it would be about our most recent episode, but if not, then we can do it later. But if it's, what do you think? Do you want to do it now?
Yeah, may as well.
All right.
Dear Tom and Gary, once again, I'm enraged that they put your name first. Why do people do that? Is it because Tom is monosyllabic and just simpler?
Because as you probably just admitted, Tom seems to be the one that comes up with all the ideas.
So there. Dear Tom and Gary, happy Father's Day. As I am an anonymous listener and do not know you personally, I'm not sure whether you are fathers, but I'm celebrating Father's Day by listening to the pod. Isn't that nice? I truly enjoyed your last installment and think you should rename it Conversations with People Named Jim. I think it has a real ring to it. Things I liked. Mr. Gartner was a marvelously humble guest. He doesn't see himself as a legend. As a legend myself, I find this lovely. Wow, this person has a high opinion of themselves. Spielberg was asked what the hardest thing about directing is, getting out of the car. I'm sure Gary and Tom, with thousands of listeners around the globe, can relate to the unbearable weight of other people's expectations. No,
can I jump in there with something?
Yeah. I don't know.
Given the amount of car rides we took and had to sit through, the two of us driving to a shoot, to me, the easiest part of production was jumping out of the car. But I digress. Go ahead.
Well, I would say another hard part about production is throwing the football into the trunk of the moving car, not getting out of the car. This is something Tom Karamitis and I did out in the desert one day for a shoot. We got bored, so we had somebody drive our rental car around and try to throw a football into the trunk, which was popped open.
For any of you ad folks out there, you undoubtedly know that being on a shoot means about 80% of your time you're really not doing anything except waiting.
Right.
So you come up with stuff, whether it's 30 questions or, in our case, what we call desert naval trunk ball.
Yeah, why was it called that, Tom?
Well, it was desert because we were in the desert. Naval was because the loser, supposedly on a hot, sweaty day in the desert, the loser was supposed to put his tongue inside the navel of the winner. I don't know why we came up with that. And trunk ball, so desert naval trunk ball in the Mojave Desert.
And did the person who lost stick their tongue into the winner's navel?
Yes, because I still recall the taste. And it was not pleasant.
So there. All right, back to the email. Point number 3, the insight into how a director gets performances out of actors. It's not try something different. To be honest, I've never had a really clear idea what a director does, and this was helpful. Point number 4, Mr. Gartner is kind. The actors spend a lot of time getting there, but you don't want to just dismiss them, he said. I should be nicer to actors. Maybe this person is works with actors somehow. Maybe it's Steven Spielberg. Point 5, Gary shared his water bottle trick. Yes, I did.
Classic.
Yeah. Next point, Mr. Gartner has never forgotten a person who told him, quote, you need to learn how to take a compliment. Thank you is enough. Gary Doyle said the same thing to me when I was about 12. I never forgot it either.
Oh, you're hanging out with kids, apparently. This person knows you from your distant past.
Epstein Island, baby. Two words, Epstein Island. That's a joke. Next point, it was interesting to think about the prioritization of flashy editing over storytelling. Quote, all the studios don't want to take a chance anymore, so they make another one of those. That was very true what James said.
Yep.
Quote, the things that were truly unpleasant you forget about. What you remember is the great people you worked with, unquote. Tom Karamitis said this about shoots, but I think it's a nice thing to say about life as well. I'd watch a So There movie, a Tom and Gary biopic. I'm sorry, that actually said a Gary and Tom biopic. I'm just so used to saying Tom and Gary. Gary and Tom biopic. It's very sweet that people looked forward to the bonus round of an interview where they'd sail through the trial and could speak more freely. And finally, last thing that's listener liked, the fart humor. Farts are funny.
Yeah, you never quite know about farts. You know, we're out on a limb there for a second, a little gaseous limb, if you will, and it worked out okay.
One thing this listener didn't like, the reminder that when I visited Gary Doyle on set, I was promised craft service and didn't get it. They ordered from the late great City Bakery instead. Today I find I am still angry about it. Wow. Fondly, a devoted anonymous fan.
Anonymous, but dropping a few clues as to his or her identity. But we can delve into that more at a later date.
How do you know how many 12-year-olds, maybe a lot of 12-year-olds visit me on set?
You were a noted camp counselor for most of your adult life, weren't you, Gary?
This person actually, when they visited me on set, were not 12. They don't say what age they were. So.
All right.
Yeah, back when I used to make something called, get ready, listeners, commercials. Those quaint artifacts where you'd spend money, get to go out of town, work with a great director, great editor, Someone makes your bed for 2 weeks in L.A. It's called commercials.
And I would suggest the main reason that most of the people of our generation got into the business in the first place. You know, make big stuff that people would see, which was always so much fun when your relatives or friends say, hey, did you do that commercial for Nintendo or Frosted Flakes or whatever it is? And yeah, I did that one. And then they get real quiet because they actually hated it.
Yeah. That reminds there was a great commercial for HBO years and years ago about a director that was all these fancy cocktail parties in New York City, and he kept being asked by people, did you direct this thing I saw on HBO? Yeah, no, I didn't do that. Did you direct that documentary? It's really good. No. Did you direct that series? No. And then finally someone phone kept him and said, did you direct this? And he goes, yes, I did. Even though he clearly didn't.
Yeah, it's kind of like getting together with a bunch of friends or relatives who are not in the business. So they just start throwing the names of prominent things they've seen at you by chance to see if you've done it. And of course you haven't done any of them. And then the conversation just moves on to another topic.
What I sometimes answer is if someone asks me if I did a particular thing, commercial, I'll say, did you like it? And if they say yes, I'll go, yes, I did. So there.
Well, Gary, I thought we might get back to some of our roots about when we started the podcast and talk about, you know, commercials and campaigns and trends and stuff in this industry and kind of see what we think of it. There's a campaign that's been running. I don't know, it's a campaign. It may just be a single spot that they run a lot. And to me, in a lot of ways, it captures all the worst things of what our business has sometimes become. Have you seen the commercials for Stanley Steamer, which is a company that comes in and they basically clean your carpets and your vents and things, right? They clean the air in your house. And they licensed a new arrangement of the Police song, Every Breath You Take, which to me is kind of just an eye roll about, okay, every breath you take and Stanley Steamer is all about clean air and all that stuff. But where I have the big disconnect is that song is really about a stalker. It isn't kind of a sweet little love song about breathing fresh air. Right. So that bugs me, and I think people, and that was a huge hit, obviously, and I think people who know that song realize, you know, it feels a bit odd, you know. It feels, you know, like they made a rash decision about what song to link to license, and they should have kind of did a little more digging into the lyrics. But in an installment that I like to call "You're Welcome," I've come up with perhaps, and I want Gary Doyle to weigh in on this, perhaps a better choice. Although admittedly, it's a dated choice. I will quote to you a line from the famous song by the Hollies. Sometimes all I need is clean air that I breathe from Stanley Steamer. Huh? Pretty good, huh?
Ancient Chinese secret. No, that is an upgrade. That is an upgrade for sure. I'll tell you, when I hear Stanley Steamer, I just can't get Cleveland Steamer out of my mind.
And what's a Cleveland Steamer?
Are you serious?
I'm sure it's something disgusting.
Something we can't discuss. It is. We'll talk about it. As the kids say, we'll talk about it offline. But it is a disgusting act. That's all I'll say.
Our 6 listeners right now are moving to the Google page on there.
Urban Dictionary. UrbanDictionary.com. Cleveland Steamer. No,
And folks, it is not an Ohio-based sofa cleaning service, okay?
Oh my gosh! I remember their old jingle, the Stanley Steamer. They used to have a jingle when I was a kid. Stanley Steamer, the carpet cleaner, knows your carpet isn't clean if it hasn't been Stanley steamed. That was it.
I didn't know that one. I know the more recent one. Stanley Steamer gets your home cleaner. I thought that was anyway, that's the only one I know.
That supports my long-held theory that if creatives were paid for like the effectiveness of their work rather than like winning awards or whatever, they would be doing jingles all day long. Because they are the most effective.
Oh yeah.
Like we're replaying an ad idea that's like 50 years old or whatever.
Yeah, because it's what do they say? It's sticky, right?
It's sticky. Yeah. Our creators would just sit around and try and come up with the best jingles. No, I don't think that's got enough. That doesn't repeat the product enough. It would totally flip the equation.
Instead, what a lot of folks do now is they fall back on these either visual or audio cliches like Game Changer, which I know we've talked about on the pod. And the latest visual cliche, it's like when you don't know what to show people who are 40 and older doing, now you have them play pickleball. Pickleball has become this ubiquitous visual cliche.
You're not a fan?
Well, I am, as I get to be an older guy, I am kind of interested in how older folks are treated in commercials and what activities, they tend to have seniors do, and for a while it was water aerobics and,
Yeah.
But now I'm noticing more and more, and admittedly, it's a lot of the pharmaceutical commercials, but when where basically it's just it's just eye candy and they're just talking about the product and they're...
Yeah. Yeah.
But now it's like pickleball. That's like the thing now, It's just enough. Come on. Let's try a little harder.
I know this I've worked on pharma. Did you know that when they talk about the side effects that the drug has, did you know that by law, they cannot show anything very compelling on screen? Because the theory is they want people to pay attention to what the announcer's saying. So by law, you cannot have anything compelling on screen when they're talking about, you may develop a third eyeball in the middle of your forehead. So that's why they show like people running through fields at those moments or playing pickleball or swinging in a hammock because they don't want it to be compelling. You can't by law.
Yeah, I think I was aware of that. I think in the days when I used to work on Eli Lilly, they used to call that fair balance, which was that endless.
It's called fair balance, yeah.
Okay, it's the list of endless caveats and disclaimers. But interesting, you may remember, Gary, we had Eli Lilly when we were at Leo Burnett together, and the brand we had that I worked on for a couple productions was Prozac, and we did a commercial for Prozac, but Prozac had become such a well-known drug that we had a commercial where we made no claims. We made no audio claims about what Prozac does. All we did is we showed these scenes of people moving from a dark place, like a tunnel, to a light place. It was like this visual, or somebody in the living room opening the blinds and the light streams in. Yeah. So since we didn't make any claims, we didn't have to do any of the fair balance stuff either. So it's interesting.
Sure. Well, that's one of the challenges of doing pharma work is it's so hard to make a claim that's why so many of those ads you're not even sure what it's for, what the product is for exactly as you described. And plus, the more claims you make, the more you have to have fair balance included. So it's really hard. I have
You're welcome.
For you, Tom, for Prozac.
All right.
We're Prozac. We're pro Tom. We're pro Gary. We're pro all men. Get it? This one goes out to all the Zacks in the world, and then we can target Zacks online. But then you know what? We're for all men.
Except we're all, but Prozac was isn't that It's an antidepressant, I thought.
Oh,
Prozac.
I thought it was an erectile dysfunction. Oh, okay.
Well, you can still use
I
it.
thought it was erectile. Yeah, that's true, but I thought it was an erectile dysfunction.
Ah, okay,
right?
all right.
That's my, Then you could rotate all the names through, like Prozac, Pro Barry, Pro Tom, Pro.
I got you. Oh, Zach being short for Zachary. Oh, okay.
Zach, and it's a guy named Zach.
Okay. I like that.
Then we're pro all the men. We're pro Harold. We're pro, Timothy. The ideas to spring from my forehead like Penelope from Zeus.
That is a very good. You're welcome.
Before we get off, and you're right, your song is an upgrade over Every Breath You Take. That reminds me of a time we were working on a cell phone account at Burnett. And my partner and I, it was a pitch and a big account. I forget if it was Verizon or whatnot. But my partner and I came up with all these ideas we really liked. And we went into the chief creative officer's office, who shall remain unnamed. And this chief creative officer listened to our ideas and goes, I got this thing I've been thinking of. And she proceeds to sing Every Breath You Take, but it was every call you make, every friend you blame, every call you make will be supporting you, or whatever. That's what she did. I shouldn't say she, because I might be giving it away. And my partner and I were just sitting there, just nodding along pleasantly with a smile on our face, both thinking, I just want to keep our job. We just want to keep our job. We just want to not get fired. So we're just like nodding along pleasantly. Okay. All right. Yeah. True story. Every call you make.
What do you do in that situation? It's kind of like...
Exactly. It's like, that's a thing. It's like you try not to mask your horror. So you just go like nod and like, yeah, okay. I just want to hang on to my job right now.
Oh God, it's like the Albert Brooks movie, Lost in America. This little town car.
They gave it back. That's the campaign. They gave it back. And the casino operator just kind of stares at him with this dead expression and goes, "You're a very funny man, sir, but we're not giving you your money back."
Gary Marshall, yes.
Gary Marshall, exactly. Yeah, great call. I knew it was a producer or a director. I couldn't remember if it was Sidney Pollack or yeah. You're a very funny man, but we're not giving you your money back. Oh.
Now, before we wrap up this topic, I do have to say, because these things tend to come in threes, and another "you're welcome" that again occurred to me as I'm watching the British Open, or as they now call it, the Open golf tournament, was again, AT&T needs to sponsor the 18th tee on every telecast. When you go to the 18th tee, the final hole, it's the 18th tee, right? Talk about sticky. It's AT&T, 18th tee. Come on. Why is not the whole world jumping on this? You're quiet. Every time I mention it to you, you're quiet.
You're like
help me.
You're like a comedian that tells a joke at a Bob's and you're like, come on, that's funny. Like one time I presented an idea to a client, and for some reason, I don't even remember now why, there was a cow swimming underwater and a person looking out of the porthole of their submarine at the cow swimming by. And so we presented it, and the client, like, just crickets, right? And we looked at him and we said, "It's a cow!" Like that would make it more palatable to them to repeat the, "It's a cow! Swimming underwater!"
Yes, and just like your story, you just left me twisting in the wind with my 18th tee. Fine, I'm going to escalate it. I got to figure out what agency does AT&T. We'll start there. You're welcome. So there. Gary, I want to ask you what you think of the campaigns lately that where the spokesperson is a rather despicable sort. Like in what a current one I would say is maybe Mayhem for Allstate. He started out as kind of just more of a daredevilish kind of guy, but now he just seems to be kind of a mean kind of dick of a person, And I saw another campaign for the campaign you might have seen from Mattress Firm, right, where they show people doing awful things like sticking their fingers in the guacamole dip, or riding on the shoulder of the highway to pass everybody, and then the person asks them, "How do you sleep at night?" And they always say just fine on a mattress from Mattress Firm, and then they play all night long the whatever Lionel Richie song or whatever. But I can't.
As if the idea wasn't bad enough.
Yes, then they have to.
How can we make this worse? I know. Let's tag it with all night long.
But yeah, exactly. They just put a cherry on top. Exactly. But do you? Is there have you had discussions about it? Does the anti-hero help you or hurt you? If it's somebody that's truly despicable and they become your spokesperson. Not spokesperson, but the star of the spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, it maybe is a larger reflection of society because if you think about a lot of popular television shows now, or in the recent past, there are no redeeming characters on a lot of them. Like, there's really not a good redeeming person on Mad Men. There's really not one on The Sopranos. There's really not one on Breaking Bad for the most part. It's just kind of a thing where it used to be in drama or in something like that. You had, I don't know, you had somebody to root for, and now it's just maybe it's a reach, but I feel like, it's maybe a reflection of society that we're gravitating toward something like that versus, I don't know. So one of my, if you can have an advertising hero, which is kind of bizarre, but one of my advertising heroes has always been Jeff Goodby, the guy that runs Goodby Silverstein, the great creative agency out in San Francisco. And he said something once, and I'm totally paraphrasing, but he said, one of the goals of our advertising is society is coarse enough, and we're not going to add to that with our advertising. Right? It's going to be of a certain level. It's not going to be coarse and stupid and unpleasant. It's because there's enough of that in society, and let's not add to it, at least. Let's find a certain level. And that's always stuck in my head, If you can do that, you're doing something. You're not doing people sticking their fingers in guacamole.
Right. But you make a good point though, because I hadn't thought of it in terms of it is happening more across entertainment in general, on TV shows and stuff, as you mentioned. Also, there's a commercial that's been running for a couple of years for a cat food. It's Sheba or something, and there's a woman sitting on a couch, and she's a young woman, a young mother, and she's petting the cat that's next to her on the couch, and you hear her kid off camera saying, "Mom, I cut myself." And she just keeps staring at the cat, and she says, "There's bandages in the medicine cabinet." And then the kid yells again something like, "But Mom, it's really bleeding." And then Mom says, "Well, then grab two." And the idea of the commercial is she's so into her cat and her cat's comfort and stuff that she ignores her bleeding child, which I guess in a way is kind of funny, but to me, it's a bit of a bridge too far to make her and that kind of behavior. I don't know. I guess what you're trying to say is people who love their pets more than anything else in the world, even their own children. But I just find it a little bit, I don't know, distasteful.
But don't do a bleeding. There's an idea there, but don't do a bleeding child. Like your dog is humping the mailman. I mean, that's what. But you can't attend to that because of your cat. Whatever.
Right.
Make the thing they can't pay attention to funnier.
Yeah.
The other flaw in your mattress firm idea is it's actually two ideas going on there. One idea is how do you sleep based on the despicable person you are. Then you have this other idea, all night long, right? Which are kind of two different ideas. All night long is, although it's not a good song or a good idea, it could be about, well, here's you're going to sleep all night long. You're going to do whatever all night long. But yeah, it's two ideas, Tom. This episode is full of...
You're welcome. Yeah, and I will make a prediction as to how that whole thing came about, what you just described. They licensed the Lionel Richie song first. They had a signed deal and they committed, and then all of a sudden somebody came up with the other idea. And I wonder if there's a way we could put them together. But yeah, it's like two disparate things just kind of slapped against each other, and yeah.
Yeah, you encounter that a lot when you inherit an equity of the brand, and maybe it had been running for a while with that song at the end, and so out at Mattress Firm, like, well, this is a given. We know we got the Lionel Richie song at the end. What do we do with it now? What do we do at the beginning? But we know we got to end with it because we just paid $3 million for it. So you inherit that. That's that's a common thing on pitches too, is sometimes you'll pitch something and the client will go, okay, we're open to anything, but we got to keep this tagline, or we got to keep this song, or we got to keep this thing, but we're free to explore, but we got to keep that thing.
Right. And you can't let the client know that in our heart of hearts, even though we just paid $1 million for the Lionel Richie thing, we don't really want it anymore. You can't tell them that, even though you think that. So then you concoct some kind of contrived argument as to why we need them both now in the commercial.
Remember what Lionel Richie's tagline used to be? Outrageous! Remember he used to say that?
In what?
I don't know. It was like a thing he did back when he was popular. He'd host an award show. Outrageous!
Oh, that was like his little signature line or something?
His little signature thing. Why? Why? He's the furthest thing from outrageous, right?
I know.
I mean, certain entertainers, you could make that point, like, Lady Gaga or something. I don't know, but Lionel Richie, outrageous.
I love that meme that was circulating for a while, that picture of him on a wanted poster or something that said, "Is it me you're looking for?" And this kind of a poor, sad expression on his face. Well, I'd like to add a little cherry on top of this whole bad marketing discussion and say I came across another example of the trend that refuses to die, the noun as verb. But this is going to double down because this is not only another example, but it's ripping off one that was already done, and that is Kohl's, the store chain, said,
Department store,
yeah, this is how you Kohl's. Now, about a year earlier,
that's next level because they're using the marketer, the brand's name.
That's right.
As a verb.
Right. And they may think they plussed it because of that. But in reality, a year earlier, the NFL said, this is how you football. Although they just said, this is how you football. Kohl's, as you said, is using their actual brand name. This is how you Kohl's. But anyway.
They're all high-fiving each other after they did that. They're like, oh, my God. We went beyond the noun as verb. Brand name as verb. And they're all like high-fiving each other.
All we can both hope is that this represents the death rattle of this tired, awful trend.
Oh, I don't think so. I can just picture when they presented it to the client too. The agency probably showed them research that said, 42% of our consumers don't know how to Kohl's. So we need to show them that this is how to Kohl's. And we will do that in this campaign. And the CEO was like, I like it. I like it a lot.
Have you ever sit around with your partner and you're trying to come up with an idea and you have in your toolbox the most generic thing that basically you could put any client into, like the words "and you," right? You can say Taco Bell and you, right? John Deere and you. And if you can't come up with anything else, you use one of those. And you probably, it's like in the Gary Doyle secret file, in a certain part of his computer, when you're really stuck, this is what you go to. I guess maybe AI has replaced the Gary Doyle secret file, right? Does Gary Doyle have, a file of when you're really, really up against it, you just need to get through the day? Does such a thing exist in some form?
A file of what?
Well, like when you just can't come up with an idea, maybe some thought starters that you've used before, or tagline cheats like the one I gave you, and those sorts of things. Because there's got to be times that you're cramming and you just can't come up with anything.
Yes, Tom. It's called ChatGPT.
Yeah, AI. Thank you. Yeah.
So there. You know who used to have, and you just did it, Frosted Flakes. Remember?
Yeah, but that wasn't...
Which I never understood. They had a jingle and it said, Frosted Flakes brings out the tiger in you. And then Tony would come in and say, and you. Now, how is the and you that Tony said different from who the song is talking about?
Unless Tony is pointing right at camera to let the poor 8-year-old know that he means me.
But the song is directed at that person.
Right. I'd forgotten that.
The tiger in you, as if this and you is different. It's like, no, not this guy. That guy over there.
The first time I heard the "and you" is I was working at Ogilvy, and I was working in the AV room. The agency was pitching Taco Bell, and that was in the pitch, that line, Taco Bell, and you. They didn't get the business. No, I'm sorry. It was not "and you." It was "hello." That's what it was. Hello, Taco Bell. That was the, just put a hello before the name of your client. And there you go. There's your campaign. Hello, Taco Bell.
And hello to you. You know who that would have been great for? Remember the Asian restaurant we used to favor in L.A. called You?
Yeah, why you? Yeah.
That'd be a great you and you.
You're welcome.
Wow, Tom Karamitis is going to get mileage out of that stinger. He'll put that in there like 42 times because Tom Karamitis came up with that stinger.
Any port in a storm, my friend.
So there.
Well, I feel like Gary and I are both spent at the moment. So we're going to go off and take a nap. But before we do, just a reminder, because the email flow has almost stopped. So it's a reminder, we're at sothere@yahoo.com. That's sothere, one word, @yahoo.com.
Maybe we're not getting more emails because people think there's an exclamation point after so there.
I'm sure that's...
Because that's what our title is, has an exclamation point.
Yes.
But
now
no exclamation point, listeners. So there @yahoo.com.
That goes without saying. They're going to start flowing in like never before. So. And until next time, for Gary Doyle, this is Tom Karamitis saying, so there.